Welcome to the Iron Edge, the podcast all about unleashing your full potential inside and out the gym. This podcast is brought to you by Cerberus Strength USA, and you can save 10% on your next order with the code IRONEDGE. Our guest today on this special Arnold Classic episode, on location in Columbus, Ohio, is the reigning Arnold Pro Strongwoman Champion, Victoria Long.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, it's been a bit of a stressful couple of days getting out here and then interviews and all that sort of stuff. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good overall. I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I've kept things pretty chill, on purpose.
Yeah.
Not socializing a ton, and that's kind of how I do my thing. But yeah, I'm feeling good.
Because I know you just moved back to Minnesota. When did you move? Did you move mid-prep? Did you move back there?
Yeah, so it was, right in the middle of prep, actually. The end of December is when I made the move up. So yeah, throw that into, your prep and the stress of that and get everything lined up. And
how did you find like that? Oh, what term do I want to use? Like how did you find it changed your prep? Did you have like the adjustment periods? I know you're from there, so it wasn't like learning a new city and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But was it a nice transition, or did you stumble a little bit, if that makes sense?
Actually, I think it was the best thing for me. I think it's actually what I needed. And I say that because, Dennis and I would train together all the time. And I love him to death, but I don't think when you train with your significant other, they necessarily push you the way you needed to be pushed. Mm-hmm. Or like if you're bitching or complaining about something, they're not going to really, you know what I mean? They're going to tread lightly with being I totally need to do that.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah, so nothing against him. But by moving back to Minnesota, I was able to train with my coach again. And that was the dynamic before I moved down to Alabama. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see Dennis later and give him crap. But that's the thing, is like when you are, like I said, with with a significant other, like you how do I want to word it? You don't want to be an asshole. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to put it, really. Like you don't want to bitch them and whatever. And like you said, like you're there at times they don't push you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm excited. I mean, your training looks really good. It's been going well. There's some events in this contest that I haven't historically done a lot in contest. And so, it was just a matter of really working and fine tuning those events. And I'm actually, excited to see like how I perform. Yeah. Because I don't really have anything to compare my performance to, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do, like on the circus stumble I do, but like the Jack Stones, like I've never had to do that in contests or anything similar. It'll be interesting to see. And then let's just drop the bombshell. Do you want to do the bombshell?
You can do the bombshell. I'll explain. Okay.
So the bombshell is that this is actually going to be Victoria's last contest.
Yes, that is correct. Life happens. You make decisions in life. When I started this sport, it was never meant to be. First of all, there was a 5-year plan. My coach and I put a 5-year plan in place, and the reason why we did that is because, I wasn't in love with the sport. Like I tried it on a whim, so it's not like I was fully dedicated, for the rest of my life to do this sport. And he put a 5-year plan in place because I think he felt like it would take that amount of time for me to like hit certain goals, you know what I mean? And to kind of grow into the sport to get where he knew my potential was. And so, like I said, we had a 5-year plan. And then after I tore my hamstring last year, it puts things into perspective a little bit. The job that I'll be going into is very physically demanding, and that's the other thing. So, with this sport, the heavy training, the constant, just heavy lifting, your body, your joints, all that good stuff. It wears your body down. It tears it down. And I don't have to tell you, the people who have been in the sport know, it just makes the rest of life, like daily life, just more difficult. And so I was toying around with the idea of when I was going to be done. And just the way life happened over the last year or so, I I made the decision. So.
I mean, it makes sense. You know, I mean, like, I know you're not supposed to ask a woman her age, but where are you in life right now? Let's put it that way.
I'm 34.
Okay, so you're just a couple of years earlier, younger than I am. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, you really, like you said, the strongman beats you to a fucking pulp. Let's put it mildly. You know, like let's not pull punches. Like you get hurt easily. Or not easily, but like, you know, the incidence of injury is very high. And that's the same deal as me. It's like, you know, you get to that point where it's like, I'm not doing X, Y, Z because I'm training so hard and wanting to compete and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That you sort of miss life a little bit.
You do.
know?
And, you know, and that's the thing. Like some people have made this sport their life. And you know what? My hat's off to them. Truly. Because, you know, you do sacrifice. The sport gives a lot. You know, I've made some amazing friends, hopefully lifelong friends, you know, in the sport and gotten to compete in some cool places like overseas, of course. And, you know, so it gives you a lot, but it also takes a lot from you. Like you said, that time with your family and your friends, you know, something as simple as like, if you're in the middle of prep and, you know, you're on point with your diet or training and, you know, Christmas falls on a Tuesday. Well, guess what happens? You still have to eat, you know, the way you're supposed to be eating per your prep, and you still have to train.
Yeah.
You know, so it ends up taking some things away too, but
yeah. And in terms of, like you mentioned family there, like I know you're from Minnesota. Like, how do you still have a lot of family there, or what's the setup with that? I don't know, because we never talked about like brothers and sisters and all that sort of stuff. Like, what's the family dynamic back in Minnesota?
Sure. So yeah, they still all live in Minnesota, kind of right around where I grew up, like central Minnesota. Yeah, so they're still all there.
Nice.
But so now that I'm back up there, it's of course nice. My mom and dad still together 45 years or something like that, probably more. I'm not even quite sure, but I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Okay.
Yep, they both have kids, and so yeah, I mean, you know, I look forward to, like I said, now that I am back in Minnesota, and you know, this is kind of this chapter of my life is closing. That you know, I'll get to enjoy the time with them and my nieces and nephews as they grow older and sports and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any thoughts on continuing to, like, I mean, I'm assuming you're probably going to continue to train because it's part of your life, just maybe not as crazily as we do for strongman. But do you have any like aspirations to do, like, you know, another endeavor?
So I'd like to stay like involved in the sport as much as I can. Like I really enjoy like judging at contests, especially like little kids. Like I judged at a contest that had little kids like last summer, and it was the coolest thing. I mean, they listen. Like their goal is to like make you happy. Like they want to, you know what I mean? Like they look for like the smile and the good job. So I'd like to continue doing that. I don't know about coaching. Like I don't know that I have patience for coaching, just because like adults are stubborn, and if they're not following what you're telling them and they're not successful, well then it's your fault. So I don't know. I haven't decided if I want to dip my toes in that. But the other big thing is like Dennis has been kind of transitioning from like full contests. I know he still wants to do OSG again this year. But he's getting more into like grip things, like grip. Yeah. So, you know, I want to be there to support him, whatever he wants to do as far as that's concerned. And, you know, he's been my, big bitch, for lack of a different term, because we all know what that means.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, but he's done that for me for the last 5 years. And, you know, I'd like to be able to do the same for him. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it when I can go to like a contest, whether it be his or somebody else's, and just watch and support and just enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's because that's the thing. You go to a contest, and if you're not competing, you actually enjoy being there. Whereas, you know, there's certain times, I mean, like, I don't know if you experienced this, but for me, like, there was so many times in my career where it was like, this is not fun anymore. And it became a job because, like, you're always looking to, like, the next thing in terms of, like, oh, okay, like, if I do, you know, I have to place top 5 in this contest to qualify for this, then I have to place that and that to qualify for this. And there was never, like, that moment of, I don't want to say relaxation, but, like, just, like, absorbing that moment.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, too, because that's one of the things that I've told people, you know, about my decision to like exit the sport, at least, you know, from a competition standpoint, is that once you get to like a top level of competing, like it can either you absolutely love it and like
you eat, sleep, and breathe it, and it's the only thing you think about. It's the only thing you want to do forever, or it does become a job, and it for me, it kind of takes the joy a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, when it just feels like, oh,
yeah,
gosh.
the best, like one of the best competitions I ever had was like North American in like 2017. And I think I'd had like a string of like crappy contests, and I went in and just been like, I have no idea how this contest is going to go. Training was okay. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't crappy. It was the middle of the road. Some stuff went better than others. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go and enjoy it. And I damn near qualified for Worlds. I was like, you know, but then I made it bittersweet. I'm like, oh, man, now I got to go to the next one. And then the next one went terribly because everything then relied on that again.
Yeah.
And it's just like a cyclical sort of
I think it's
emotion.
It's the cycle, I think, too, where I think you always say or always trick your mind into thinking, okay, just one more. It's like, well, that just one more never is the end. You know what I mean?
And it's funny that you bring that up because I started working with a new coach last, God, I don't even know, like September, October time, dealing with different injuries. You know, like my right shoulder's been bad for ages. We think I tore my meniscus in like October time. And it's just been like this, like coming back from some of that stuff. And now that training, I was like, there was a point in time where I was struggling to push press like 175. I'm like, why does everything feel so fucking heavy? And it was depressing as hell. And I didn't want anything to do with sport. I'd been like, yep, I'm not going to compete again, blah, blah, blah. Now, just because like things are getting better, I'm not hurt or not as hurt.
Yeah.
Things are feeling effortless again. And there's that little bit in the back of my head of like, what about just one more ride? You know, like just one more, like, could you come back and do it again? Like, and I'm like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know, and
it's got to be something that's in the blood. You know what I mean? Because even like for me, you know, I can say with 99% certainty that I will never do another contest again. And I only say 99% because I feel like everybody has that moment after like they give it up that they're like, oh, I'll just want, you know, I'll come back. I'll come out of retirement and this will just be, you know, blah, blah, whatever. And so that may be me, but I mean, say it with, you know.
I get it. Because that's
exactly
exactly where I'm at. I'm like, it'd be really fun to go. But then I'm like, there's also, and I hate saying this because I feel it comes across as really like arrogant, but like, I feel like once you've competed at a high level, to be like, oh, I'm just going to go and enjoy a local contest. I think you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like you're going in there with your own preconceived notion of what you should be doing.
Yep.
And that was my biggest thing for the last year, or not year, but like, you know, 8 months or 9 months where it's like, oh shit, I used to be pulling this on deadlift, or I used to press this. I fucking suck, you know? That's the only way to put it. And it's just like, it's that sort of mind, I don't know if it's not a mindset, but it's like, it's a mind fuck. That's the only way to put it, really realistically.
Yeah.
That you have this thought process that I should do this. But I ain't the same person I was a decade ago at 25, you know?
Yeah. And I know for me, like if I'm not able to go into a contest and know that I can compete at my best, like physically at my best for like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For that time, whatever, for that prep, like I won't do a contest.
Yeah.
And that I think is something that kind of sets me apart from other people too. Maybe that do the sport is that like, I know people that do contests and they're like 75%.
Oh, there was like, I literally like, so that year, the Giant Slam in 2017 went fantastic. Went back the year after. I tore something like an adductor or something like 10 days out. I still went to the contest. I shouldn't have been there. You know, like that was stupid. You know, I'm trying to do a 1,000-pound yoke with one leg essentially. I'm like, this is dumb. But like, or I went and did contests like when I was living in Washington. Like I did like 2 or 3 contests where I literally, and I still have this on my neoprene shorts, where I have the residue of the duct tape that I covered my leg in to give compression to my hamstring.
Wow.
It's stupid. But it's like, why? I don't know. Like it's not a mind. Well, it is a mindset. It's like a mental illness.
It's like it's an addiction.
It is an addiction, 100%.
Yeah, it's an addiction
complete
for sure.
addiction because, you know, like coming out of Giants Live and there's 10,000 people. I mean, you like the Arnold, like when you walk out, like that crowd reaction.
Yeah.
It's an addictive feeling, you know.
For sure.
And it's like, you know, I talked to one of my buddies who's he's one of the top guys in WWE, and he goes, dude, there's absolutely nothing. And the funny thing is, he used to do strongman, so he knows the our side of it.
Sure.
He's like, coming out when there's 70,000 people screaming your name, he's like, there's nothing like it. I was like, yeah, no shit. I was like, I can't even imagine that. But it's like you get like that little flavor of it, and then you want it more and more. And it sounds so egotistical, but at the same time, it's just like it's a natural thing.
Yeah,
I think
it is. I mean, it's you know, it's chemical, the releases of endorphins.
Exactly
you know,
what it is. Yeah.
You know, but I think you have to take. How do I say this? You have to take comfort or maybe satisfaction rather in knowing that you were able to be there. You know what I mean? Like, because so many people who compete in the sport will never get to experience that. I mean, it's a small fraction of us who actually get to compete in front of those huge crowds, you know? So I think that too kind of eases my mind with this whole decision is that like, I mean, I won't be doing this anymore, but like, look what I've been able to do.
Well, that's it.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
And that's the same side as me. Like, and that's why I think like, I don't say I struggle with not coming back, but I think that's maybe why I struggle wanting to come back, because it's like, you relive those memories and you relive those moments of like, oh my God, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
Especially when you go and watch. Like, that's the other thing.
Well, yeah. And that's like you mean that as a spectator type of thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, and I completely agree. It's like, you know, you go and watch and
you're like, I know what that feels
like. What could I do? Like, what? Could I run that yoke a second faster? You know, and that's like, what am I thinking? Like, I'm stupid. So no, you touched upon the fact of like you don't want to go and do a contest if you're not in the best shape you possibly can be. So linking that in with this weekend, I know like, before we got going, you said you're feeling pretty good and stuff like that. Like, how was prep? You know, subjectively compared to say like last year. You know, how do you feel this prep was compared to last year?
I think I want to say that last year was maybe a little bit better, only because I didn't have the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
And I say that not because I struggled in prep, like physically with recovering from that injury, but it was more of a mental thing. So like my body was perfectly fine and we rehabbed back in a way where it was safe.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't jump into shit right away. We gave it time to heal. But I think when you have an injury, whatever it is, like there's always that little like something in your brain that you're like, oh shit. Well, I know what that felt like when it happened, and I don't want it to happen again. You know?
Well, that was the thing, like, you know, for me with with the knee, like I literally like whatever I did to it, we didn't do imaging and just, you know, tried to rehab it for honeymoon. And like I did it with like I think it was like 200 pounds on the push press. Like I dipped and I was like, what the fuck was that? And now when I dip, I'm like, that didn't feel that great.
Yeah.
Like, but it's always like the warm up stuff. It's like with a 55-pound bar, you're like, this feels like junk. And then you go through your sets, but there's like that tiny bit in your brain of what if, or, you know, like you, and that's like, I think when you've been hurt, because I mean, like, how many big injuries have you had? It's really just been the hamstring, right?
That's been the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 5 years, I've been blessed.
Like, that's lucky. Whereas for me, and that's the thing, like, I think for me, how do I word this? Basically, the fuck it side of me is not there as much these days. And I don't know if it's because of age or what, but I mean, like, the amount of, like, tears, like, I tore them both, like, between both calves, it's like over 20 tears. You know, like a pec and this bicep twice and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, there's that tiny part where it's like, I just don't want to deal with it again. And that was the other part of like coming away from strongman, where it's like, I don't want to deal with being hurt, but you can't get around it. Because I feel like if I feel like, you know, if you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt no matter what you're doing. It's like, I had a great honeymoon snowboarding. Last day I caught an edge and smashed the shit on my shoulder, and it took 6 weeks. And I'm like to recover from it and make it feel like a little bit better. Yeah. It's like, I think it's just, you get to that point where you don't want to be hurt anymore. But life is going to get you at some point.
It will. Yeah, it will. It's just, you know, I think the difference is, you know, that
we increase the chances of getting injured because we do it, you know, on the daily. You know what I mean? So like your body can only take so much of, you know, the hard, heavy lifting and the, you know what I mean? Repeatedly.
I totally get it. And that's the thing.
So yeah, you might bust your ass on a snowboard, but
what's the thing? And it's like, but I think what it does is that, you know, so I'm friends with Evan. Do you know Evan Centopani? So like he came on the podcast, all that we're friends, and he just ruptured his quad, and he did it walking downstairs.
Isn't that something?
I was like, dude, I figured, because it was like in winters, like I figured you slipped in the snow. He goes, that's how I did my other one. Like 5 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever the timeline was. He was like, I was literally took a step to go downstairs and rupture my quad. And I'm just like, wow. But I think the period of like the time under tension of the consistent beating on the body, I think that it opens you up to a higher risk in general of getting hurt.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, I'm not, you know, expert in kinesiology or the body or anything like that, but I mean, it makes sense. It just makes sense. So.
Yeah. But that's where my head goes with it. And that's where I'm like, I want to compete again, but then I'm like,
yeah.
Like I'll be so pissed off at myself. I'm sure you'd probably would be as well. Like, okay, I'm gonna return for one contest, and then you tear something.
Yeah.
You know. But the thing is, it seems to happen to a lot of like comeback attempts. You know. And it's just, I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know. I never say never, right?
That's what
never say never. But
that's that 1%.
I feel like once I'm actually like settled and like in my career and like, you know, full steam ahead, that it'll be an afterthought. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll be like, you know, this is a good decision. You know,
I think if you're anything like me, I think I don't want to use the word fight. I think or struggle, but you'll probably go back and forth for a little while.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it sort of beds into that little bit more. But I don't think that. I don't think the what if thought will ever go away.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I sort of hope it does, but at the same time, I'm like, oh shit, I'm sort of stuck here.
Yeah.
So coming back into the weekend, you know, how, like you broke the deadlift record last year. Obviously, you add the hamstring in and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling? Because this podcast goes out after the Arnold.
So this is honesty right here.
Like, can you break the record again?
I can. I'm definitely like healthy enough to do it. I hope that I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And I say that because, you know, what's different about this year is that the deadlift is on day one. It's the first event. And so I am not going to exert myself any more than need be because there's 4 other events. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where people who are fans of the sport, like they don't understand like that strategy behind it. They think and they want to see rather probably they want to see us like going like full bore 150% at every event. Well, like it's not smart if you're trying to win the contest, and it's not smart if you're trying to perform well, you know, throughout the rest of the contest. So, I mean, yes, I'm capable, but I hope that we don't have to do it.
Yeah, I was looking at the setup of events yesterday. Day one's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Like max deadlift and then into frame.
Yep.
Like it's an interesting setup of events. But at the same time, when you look at the rest of them, it's not really any other way to do it, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. It's just like you said, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. You know, and the events are such this year, except for the deadlift and the frame, because those are pretty standard, you know. But the other events are kind of specialty events. They are specialty events.
No,
I mean,
completely.
the Denny Stones and the Jack Stones, like that's definitely a specialty event. The circus dumbbell is, I think, a specialty event.
Yeah.
You know, there's 2 or 3 women that, you know, well, Sam holds the record right now for that. Melissa's a strong dumbbell presser. Inez, Hannah, even. You know, and then you have the Stone Series, which is natural stones. You have people like Hannah who are Highland Games competitors who like, you know, could handle those stones in their sleep.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that Rogue wanted to switch up the point spreads. You know, because I mean they're new events that haven't been that you haven't necessarily seen before. The circus dumbbell you have, but like the 2 stone events are different. So
yeah. And I completely agree with you with the specialty side of stuff, because like with a circus dumbbell, there's the brute power aspect is a hell of a lot lower than an axle or a log. You know, so did you get any reasoning from the organizers as to why, you know, everything's the same aside from the press? Like they didn't want the press to be the same for the women, or what do you think?
I haven't gotten any information. You know, maybe at some point this weekend I'll get to, you know, grab onto Jan Todd's ear and kind of ask her why. But there's a lot of people that go into deciding what these events are. You know what I mean? So, you know, like the Jack Stones are in memorial. The Denny's too, really. You know, so, I mean, I don't know. But I think that things had maybe become a little stagnant for viewers, maybe. You know what I mean? When you see a log every year, you see the deadlift every year, you see. So maybe that was part of the.
Well, this is like what I say about like other contests, you know, like where it's like a big athlete field, and then the spectator side of it is lower. It's like the problem with it is that once you've seen a log press, you've seen 300 log presses. You know, same for a deadlift, and even like the more crowd or spectator friendly events. Once you've seen it run a couple times, you know, doing it for another 3 hours is hard, you know?
Right.
So obviously you've been at the forefront of women or the growth of strong women. I mean, where do you see it going? Because it's changed massively since you've been in this sport.
Oh, 100%. Like the first Arnold that I did, you know, it was still ran by Strongman Corp. And nothing against them. I love Dion. She's great. She's done great things for the sport. But, you know, she only has so many resources, right? You know, you compare Strongman Corp to Rogue, and Rogue has, you know what I mean? Like resources in a bank this big, and Strongman Corp has.
Yeah.
So, but I look at just the difference in the 2 contests. You know what I mean? From the first one that I did to last year.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as spectators keep showing up and people keep supporting the sport, not just for men, but for women.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? We might see like in a couple years where the women's prize pot at the Arnold's 80,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very real possibility. I mean, I obviously see it growing.
Because what did they put the pot at this year?
25.
What was it last year?
25,000.
Okay.
So yeah, I think last year was just kind of like a trial run for Rogue. I mean, it was the first year that they, and so, you know, people don't understand or maybe don't want to acknowledge that like these promoters are not just going to sink money into this certain contest because you or the competitors want this big prize pot. Like there needs to be a return on investment, essentially.
Well, there has to be that, and there has to be proof of concept. It's the same as like us running a booth here. You know, like we hadn't done it before, took the jump this year. Sure, I could have come in and been like, yeah, you know what, give me a $20,000 booth. But why?
Yeah.
I have no data to back it up. And that's the thing, like, honestly, I would say that the female side of the sport is growing faster now than the men.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know?
Absolutely. I've only been involved in it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And just over those 5 years, I mean, it's crazy. You know, women are getting invites, or there's contests with these big prize pots, you know, and more opportunities to compete overseas open up. And I mean, it's just great, you know? And so it'll continue, I think. And, you know, women will just keep getting stronger and pushing the limits. And
where do you think the limit is for female strength?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's the thing, you know?
Yeah. Because it's like just when you reach the top, like Lucy pulling 700, everybody's like that, you know what I mean? Like that's the top. And then it's like, well, is it?
Well, that's exactly. Like, why couldn't it be 710?
Right.
720.
Right. And so I know that, I think she's mentioned that she wants to pull like 8.
Jesus.
Which, right. Like, but what? 5 years ago, we couldn't wrap our minds around the fact of that a woman could pull 7, right?
I mean, completely true. Yeah.
So, I mean, who the hell knows?
Yeah. And I think like in terms of like maximal strength, like the limit is unfathomable. I think how do I word this? from a contest perspective, the balancing point needs to be figured out.
Sure.
And I've said this before, where, with the pro men before the pro women was a thing, they'd come in and they'd do. It was like the year where they had those silly heavy yokes, like 1,300 pounds, and I think it was a 1,500 pound yoke, and it was like, or maybe it was 11 and 13 the first year. I think that's what it was, maybe. But basically, come in, the guys do it no problem. The next year, everything goes up, but then the injury incidence goes up, and it's like you basically get to that point where surely the guys are capable of it, but you're going to destroy 3 or 4 people during a contest, and really for what? Whereas you're still going to find the strongest person with a little bit less weight and still, sorry, a little bit less weight and then reduce an injury risk. And I know, like, because you had the last Strongman Corp one pro woman, Arnold. What was your weight on yoke again? Was it 567 or was it 657?
It was 678.
Oh shit! I forgot.
Or, I'm sorry, 5.
No,
hold on.
No, it wasn't 800.
8 was the last one.
Yes.
678. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot it was. I forgot it went to 8. But like, how many people got hurt that year?
Yeah, there were a few.
There was a
and
couple.
I mean, even like those of us who were able to walk the yoke it was like a slow.
It's trying to find that balance, and I think that's the point where it's finding the balance where people don't get hurt, or not many people get hurt, but still testing that to the limit,
Well, right, and you still have to keep the interest of the fans. Do you know what I mean? Because
100%.
And that's the other thing. Like, I can totally appreciate that as a fan. Like, you just want to see like these crazy weights go up, but I mean, like when we talk about limits, and like you said, the risk to reward as far as the injuries or possibility of injuries goes, like, that kind of.
I think that's like I said, that's the part that will be the interesting thing as we move forward. I think to see exactly how the balancing point is found.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think now that you've mentioned Lucy trying to pull 8 or wanting to pull 8, it is unfathomable. But then at the same time, like, if you would have said that you'd have had like Inez pressing,
321 pounds or something.
It was, yeah. I couldn't remember if it was 330 or but I know it was right around there. I couldn't remember the exact number. But it's like, if you'd said that, not even 5 years ago, 2 years ago, people would have called you crazy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hard. That's the thing, and we're getting to this stage where it's like, what can we do here?
Yeah.
Which is really, as a fan of the sport, who's like, for someone who's been in it for, a long, long time. Because I remember like growing up in the sport, like where you had World Strongest Women on TV, and then it disappeared. So to see that resurgence and now like the level of where it's at is just, it's incredible.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch, tune in.
How do you feel as an athlete in terms of like, obviously you're competing, so you have that competitive athlete mentality, but like, how is the experience just being out there and being like, from a fan of the sport as well? Does that make sense? Like, how do you enjoy being out there and just like, being a part of that experience?
I mean, it's, like we talked earlier, like it's nothing that you'll ever like, there's nothing that you could equate that to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's not, just being with I mean, here's the thing. I would be willing to bet my life savings on the fact that all of us women, the 12 of us that will be on the floor the next 2 days, have talked shit about one another in some form or fashion, either in frustration or like, whatever it is. But really, when we're out there together competing against each other, like, there's still a camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would never wish bad on any of these women at all. Frustration that they are stronger in some areas, sure. I mean, who wouldn't, you know? But I'm still happy for them, Well,
I think what it comes down to is that at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, there has to be the camaraderie. Okay, there doesn't have to be the camaraderie, but you all know what it's taken to get there, And I think that's why on or at the top level of the sport, and really probably any sport. I can't speak on that because I've literally only ever done strongman my entire adult life. But I think at the top, it's a different dynamic than it is on a lower level, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think, like you said, being that everybody knows what it took to get there, I think that's where the camaraderie comes in, is that you have such a great respect for them.
Yeah.
Because it's terrible. Like, no, the person who says that they like truly from the bottom of their heart love training this sport, you're a liar.
Yeah.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe like 1% it can actually like truthfully say that. But I know me personally, like I have bitched and complained and sworn and cussed people and all sorts of stuff like during the prep, because it's not, while I keep coming back to do it, like it's not enjoyable. Like, I don't want to say it.
No, but you're
like
completely right. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's so many times like when I was competing where it's like, okay, gotta go to the gym.
Yep.
Fuck. Gotta go run stones. Gotta run this or run that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you walk in, you're like, man, I feel like fucking shit today. Okay.
So I got to do it.
Let's go. Yeah. It's like, oh man, I don't want to run. Like, oh, I'm 2 weeks out from contest. I feel like fucking junk. Okay, where's that stone?
Yep.
Okay, I have to hit X on yoke. I have to hit X on press. And it's not enjoyable.
Yep.
The outcome, if it goes your way,
Right.
is enjoyable. And even if it doesn't go your way, I feel like there's little parts of it which are enjoyable, but for the majority, it's not fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like,
And especially like going back to that top level of competing, like it's not something like training is not an option. Like you can't stand at the entryway of the gym, for your Tuesday pressing session and be like, I don't want to do this today.
Yeah.
Like it's not an option. Like if you want to stay relevant and you want to stay in the mix, like you have to do it.
Yeah.
And going back to like when it becomes not fun anymore, that kind of all plays into that part too.
And I think that's it. Like I think the differentiation is like you'll have, how do I word this? On the amateur side, they're like, oh, well, it's a hobby and this, and you should enjoy it. And it's like, yes, you should. You shouldn't be doing anything if you don't enjoy it. But then when you get that other level, there's going to be a hell of a lot of times you fucking don't enjoy it.
Yep.
And unless you're making money in this, I feel like you should enjoy it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Absolutely. It makes sense to me. 100%.
And it's that hard balancing act, because like you don't want everything to rely on money. And let's be honest, like, there's not that much money in this sport, so you really have to enjoy it.
Yep, you do.
So it's like that weird dichotomy of like, I do enjoy it and I do it for the fun of it, even though I'm not making money. And then the other side of it where it's like, I fucking hate this. I don't want anything to do with it. Okay, let's go do it anyway. Yeah. It's a sort of, it's like, it's odd to actually think about it like that.
Yeah. Yep. Pondering
I'm pondering
things.
because now it's a case of like, okay, you spend so many years, like, and I think it's very easy to get sucked in. And like you said, like we said before, like, we'll just one more contest. And I think that's a super easy thing to actually get stuck on.
Yeah.
It
absolutely is. And I just want, people like this sport becomes people's identity, like 100% their identity. There are people that don't view themselves as just so-and-so, wife, mother, whatever. It's so-and-so the strong woman or so-and-so the strong man. And for me, that's a very dangerous spot to be in when you don't know what your life looks like without the sport. I don't know what to tell you. It's a dangerous spot.
And it's funny that you bring it up, because that's honestly, like, I struggled with that for a long, long time, especially stepping back from the sport and being like, well, I'm this and this and this. I'm a strong man. This is what I do and blah, blah, blah. And it was funny, like I was going back and forth with one of my buddies back in Scotland, who competed with me for think we maybe did like one show together. But he like basically when I was moving across here, he was getting more deeper in the strongman. He's a couple of years younger than I am, and like he stepped back. You know, he's got a family now and all that sort of stuff. And we were saying, I was like, no, I was like, Tom, I just don't feel good. Like I'm a strongman and this and that. He goes, no, you're not. I was like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, when was the last time you competed? And he's like, you've not competed in 4 years or 5 years. Like you're not a strongman anymore. You're part of the sport, but you're not a competitive strongman. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but for so long. And I think when you come, because my first contest was at 17. And I think when you grow up in the sport and you mature through competing and all that sort of stuff, it becomes your identity a hell of a lot quicker. And then you get stuck on it.
Yeah.
But I think, I completely agree with you. Like when you have like this identity of, well, you know, wife, mother, dad, husband, whatever, that's not your key identity and it's just strongman, massively dangerous thing, because then what happens is like, you know, how many guys, like Mitch Hooper said it really, really well, like he's not a strongman. He's a strongman, but I can't remember exactly what is the way he described it was. But basically like how he's not just planning for a strongman because any one day something could happen and it can all go away.
Yep.
So how do you combat that? Like in your opinion, what's the combat to that? You know, how do you not fall into that trap?
You know, everybody's different. So for me, it was easier, sort of easier. And I say that because like back in the day, like 60 years old, but back in my day, so like right around 2015, I was in bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And so bodybuilding can be a very toxic sport. And it was so toxic for me that I ended up equating like my worth by like my success. And so, I mean, obviously I separated myself from that sport. And as I got older, I realized that that's what was going on. Mm. And so I knew that when I started this sport and I started having success, that I didn't want to go down that path again.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I wasn't as successful in bodybuilding as I have been in strongman. So you have that other element, where it's like, you know, you're invited to these contests, these top level contests, and all these people look up to you and, you know, say how inspirational you are, and they want to meet you and take a picture with you. And so, you know, you have to be aware. You know what I mean? You have to be aware, you know, in the moment what's happening, I think, in order to be able to keep, you know, separate yourself from that.
Well, no, and I think I don't want to talk shit. And I know this was probably going to rub people the wrong way. And I don't really give a fuck anymore.
We're adults.
Yeah. But I think at top level strongman, the identity of I'm so-and-so, I compete at World's Strongest Man, this is a massive problem. We all put our pants on the same way, you know?
Yep.
You're just another person. And I think that's what happened. I think that's a big problem in terms of, yes, like, you know, you compete on the highest level. You deserve recognition. You deserve applause. Completely agree with that. And I'll be honest, I fell into that trap of like, oh, fuck, I compete at the highest level in strongman and this and that. And I'm like, I never made it to Worlds. But you still fall into that trap. And I think at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, in a certain extent. I think it gets lost. But honestly, I think it happens in or at least what I can see is it happens at every level of either sport or celebrity, you know? Sure. And people get lost in it. And it's sort of sad. And it's like, how do you avoid that? And I think, like you said, it's being aware of it, you know? And I think, you know, because, so you started Strongwoman at like 29, basically. 28, 29, roughly.
Yeah.
I think being that little bit more mature and knowing what you're about probably helps a hell of a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it's that identity and it's just a whole big amalgamation of like stuff that can go on, and it's a fucking battle at times, I feel.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I can't imagine what that battle must look like for, you know, the more popular strongman or more successful, you know, like Thor or like Eddie, or, I mean, it has to be on a level that's just, it's not fathomable for me because I'm just Victoria Long and do my thing. You know, but one thing that I always keep in mind too is that like people know who I am, but they know who I am if they're involved in the sport.
Well, that's exactly
do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to walk down like Main Street in Columbus and have, I mean, maybe now because it's the Arnold, but
Arnold weekend, sure.
Right. On a regular day, or like back up in Minnesota on a regular day, go to school or whatever. And people are just going to be like, know who I am.
And it's funny, you know, having competed for a while and then now like owning the brand in the like Cerberus in the USA, I've had people come and be like, oh my God, you're Ken Nowitzki. I'm like, hi. And it's weird as fuck. Love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. It's cool to have like that recognition. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just a guy that lifted weights and was given an opportunity, ran with it, and here we are now.
Humble beginnings. And I think I don't know the history of like all strong men and women that are relevant today, but you know, I imagine that most of them came from humble beginnings. Yeah. Like you weren't successful. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth when you know, came out. Like, and so I think that like, in order to stay down here, you need to keep that in mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, stay humble and just, you didn't start off where you are today. Like,
and I think that's part of like, you know, there's, how do I word it? I hate the fact that I've said like, how do I word it about 5 or 6 times in this podcast? I'm so aware of it.
Well, how do you word it? You need to find out how you word it.
But I think that's also like where it's like, people forget how long it took to get to that top level at times. And sometimes it happens really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and you get sort of, you don't get lucky, but it clicks. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand how like, you know, an amateur athlete is struggling with XYZ. I was like, that's just because they are, you know? And I think that's another part of it where it's like trying to balance, like when you're talking to someone and trying to give somebody advice, like you need to balance, like you need to remember that like, not everyone has fantastic genetics for this stuff. Yep. You know, not everyone's massively jointed or, you know, 6'10" or blah, blah, blah. It's that balance and trying to figure that one out again is like, it can be a struggle, I think. Mm-hmm. So on that note, if you had to give 3 pieces of advice to someone starting the sport, male or female, what would they be? Your 3 keys, the Victoria Long keys to success.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. I mean, I could have done 1, but you're giving me 3, so.
Okay, let's start with 1 and we can build on that.
We can build on it. You know, like I said before, like be humble, you know, something that, and I can't remember who told me this, but at some point during the last 5 years, somebody had told me, you know, people will not remember which contests you won or if you were a world record holder, this, that, or the other, but they will always remember how you treated them. And so that I think would be like number 1.
I think that is so key for every part of life though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. You know? Like it's not just the sport. No, it's just in general.
And the thing is, I've seen that so many times, like where like I don't know who originally said it. I want to know, because, but like I think so many people say that because I think it's so important to be repeated by everybody. Like it needs, that's how you should be living life.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And like when people like ask me, like shoot me a message on social media, and they ask for, I had somebody ask me if they sent me like pictures, if I would sign the pictures so they could put them in like the gift bags for like, they were running some contests, gift bags for like the first place finishers in the contest. I was like, absolutely. Like, here's my address. Oh my God, thank you. And it's like, they can't be thankful enough. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, like, yes, I will do that, you know? Or like I said, like taking the pictures or asking advice. Like I don't charge people for advice. Like what, you know, like, no, I'll, you know, critique your deadlift or if you want me to, or, you know, things like that. So yeah, just always be humble, no matter if you never make it out of the amateur realm or you
are successful and, you're at the pro level one day. So that'd be number one. Number two would be don't take to heart things that people say that have never experienced the joy of winning or the agony of defeat. So the people, and I think we're going to talk about this at some point. I don't know when we're going to segue into the comment part of it, but if you want, we can segue.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
And I say that because, during the time that I've been doing this, there's been so many nasty comments on social media. You've seen them. Other people have seen them, and, other people have defended me, and thank you. Much appreciated. But, people saying nasty things like, oh, that's a man, or, oh, and I could go on, but I'll keep it G for the purpose of this podcast. And the reality of it is most of those people have no idea. They have no idea what it takes to do the sport, the dedication, the grit, the sacrifices that people make. Like they don't know. To them, they see, speaking from, the woman's side of things, they see us, deadlifting 600 plus pounds or pressing 300 plus pounds, and they have a nasty comment for it. And it's like, you people have no idea what we go through, the training that we do. And you've never competed. You've never been on the competition floor. So to take things that those people say to heart is just a waste of your time. And it's just, they are little keyboard warriors that need to be heard because they don't feel like they have enough attention in life or never got hugged enough as a little kid or whatever. So that's how they're going to try and be relevant,
The part of that I simply cannot wrap my head around is why? Like, where's the benefit? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so you're sitting at home or wherever the fuck, and you feel the need to make a comment, like, why? It comes back to that whole thing. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah. And I want to know why, because I see the comments come through and I'm like, fucking seriously. And it's like, especially like after the last year's Arnold, like I was sitting like at home with Michelle, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit. And it's like delete. And I'm like, because I don't want that as part of our social media, because I'm not about that. I'm not giving you a platform to spread your shit, Right. And it's just, but it's so like you open up and you're like, oh my God, another 5. And you're like, fuck, give me a break.
Yeah.
And I want to know the thinking behind it,
So the only thing that I can think that it is it's just like, it's insecurity. Like something is missing in your life, or you haven't accomplished what you think or want to accomplish, or whatever it is. I mean, and in some way, shape, or form, you are threatened by what we do.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, but yeah, you're right. I mean, people use, posts which are supposed to be great, uplifting, encouraging, inspirational posts as their personal platform for bullshit. And, I've said this, like, I feel like in 2024, people say some sideways shit because they're not going to get socked in the throat. Like, because there's no repercussion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying physically I want to go beat some ass, but like, there's no repercussion. Like,
no, there's no repercussion. I feel like in society these days, there's not much repercussion for anything.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't listen to those people because they have no idea and they're just sad keyboard warriors in mom's basement. But, let's see. Number 3. I don't know. Because of like late and the decision that I made to walk away from the sport, or at least stop competing. I don't want to say walk away because I'm not going to walk away from the sport. Yeah. I still want to be very, very involved, but don't ever feel guilty for making that choice. You know what I mean?
The choice is right for you.
Right. Yeah. Whatever that is. I mean, it doesn't have to be like my choice that I've made. But whatever choice it is, whether it's, not doing a contest for whatever reason or whatever, never feel guilty because it's a choice that needs to be right for you. And only you can know that it's right and it's the right time. And so,
well, I think especially when it comes to strongman, because of like, touching on the injury stuff again, the potential of things to go sideways is so high. Like you can't go into it half-assed.
Right.
So if you're coming to a contest like, oh, I don't know about XYZ, this doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel good, you know?
Especially if you want, if you're a person who wants longevity in the sport, I think that's the other thing. Like people look at my career in the sport and say, well, I mean, in 5 years, she's only done 8 contests or whatever it is. I don't even know how many I've done, but the point is I usually don't do multiple contests a year. And if I do, it's like 2.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I want to give my body the time for rest. And so if you are a person who's doing 4, 5, 6 contests a year and you're looking at having longevity in the sport, good luck. Good luck. And we've seen it.
Hey, I mean, I get it. Like the year I tore the year I first tore my bicep, I competed 13 days that year. You know?
Yeah.
But I think it's also different here. I don't know how it is in Europe nowadays. It's still similar-ish. But back then, like, you know, especially like I didn't go and do, you know, SCL and stuff like that. But you could compete every single weekend, and that's what Zydrunas did. And he competed every weekend, and that's how he, you know, made money and et cetera, et cetera. But the difference, and I think people forget about this, is that he wasn't going full bore every single weekend. It was basically becoming a training session.
Yeah.
That was his event session. You know, and I think that's the other side of it is like the sport has changed now. Like when I was doing like those 13 days a year and stuff like that, it was like, yes, there were bigger contests, but you basically came into it, like you prepped in the off season, then you had a season. Here's my season. Here's when I'm competing. Whereas now it seems to be more of a case of, okay, I'm going to compete at X contest in 12 weeks or 6 months or next year. And then you prep simply for that.
Yeah.
And I feel, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this, but I feel like it's a double-edged sword. Because when you compete a lot, especially in the formative years of your career, like the first couple, I feel like when you compete a lot, you learn so much. Not even about like how to compete or that. You figure out how you tick as an individual and how like, okay, if an event goes crappy, how do I continue the contest without without dwelling on that for the next 6 events and ruin the entire day?
Yeah, and you're right. And I've thought about that too, like because I've heard several people say it that, you know, I think Rob Kearney was the last person I heard say it, but with competing comes that experience, and you can't mimic that in training. No. You can't. I mean, it needs to happen at a contest. I think what has helped me is that like my coach is a glutton for punishment. So, I mean, he was involved in the sport, you know, for several years before I came along, and he would do contests. You know what I mean? So like, as far as like certain do's and don'ts, like he was able to transfer that knowledge, but I just had to, the rest of it, like you said, how you tick and like, I just had to figure it out.
Well, that's
and
the thing.
I've been fortunate no, that's okay. And I've been fortunate to be able to figure that out in the short time that, you know, I've, you know, competed. So,
well, I think that's it. Like, you know, you can learn so much from other people, but like there is that little, like that personal side.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, one of the guys down in Texas, his name's Andrew Burton. He's like, he won World's Strongest Firefighter last year. And he like went and came in, he did, I think he won USS Nationals. He went and competed at Strongman Corp Nationals, qualified for the Arnold and all that sort of stuff. And like, we keep in touch, and like he's an ambassador for Cerberus and all that sort of stuff. And he put a post up like maybe 2 or 3 days ago now. And he said, this is the heaviest sandbag I had access to in training. It's only 375. I don't like going to a contest not knowing what I'm capable of. I'm like, dude, that's the best way to go to a contest, because now you don't have a limit.
Yeah.
So it's like even something like that. It's like, he's like, oh shit, okay, that makes sense. Like, it's like learning those little things, because like the same deal. Like how many, like there was times where when I was coaching stuff, like I know like from previous experience, this athlete has hit contest weight at some point in time in their career. They're stronger now. We don't need to hit contest weight. We need to get you faster. Say it for like a yoke. We need to get you faster. And then they'd be like, hey, I'm off program. I needed to feel contest weight. I'm like, dude, why? Like, you don't need to. You know you're strong enough. Like, I understand why, but like, no. Like, let me, and I have to reject the rest of the week. And that can only come with being involved and the experience of a contest day.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, like I said, that's just not the route we chose.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, everybody does things a little bit differently, and you find out what works for you.
I mean, I think it worked pretty well for you. Let's be honest.
So far.
You know, I think you've done okay.
So far.
You know, so to wrap it up, like, obviously you still want to be involved in the sport. Like, I actually bumped into Kristen Rose today.
Okay.
So she's doing like some of the presenting stuff. If you got the opportunity to do that, would you want to do that? Like, would you want to be on the live stream and like talking about the event, or would that quote unquote screw with you because you're not involved?
No, I mean, it would be great. Like, I would absolutely do it. I just did a little bit of that at OSG this past year.
I forgot that. Yeah.
I mean, it was probably terrible, but you know what? You don't know. You can't get better at it unless you practice.
It's just like we were having a discussion about the podcast and like how do we like level up a little bit and like, what do we need to do? And it's like we're literally making this up on the spot. Like, like we bought a bunch of equipment and we just started trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, I mean, you can't get better at anything in life if you don't just throw yourself in.
Yep. 100%. So yeah, I would absolutely do that. I mean, it'd be fun. And I think like having like other people like commentating, like Big Loss, he's an amazing commentator.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The guy could do it in his sleep. You know, so if I had like him there, or, you know, Jerry Pritchett, he's a good commentator. Yeah. And you just kind of, you know, it works. So
yeah,
I would absolutely do that for sure.
So to wrap it up, where can people find you? Obviously, even if you're not competing anymore, you're still going to be on social media, I'm assuming. Still have a good presence in the sport. Where can people find you if they need to get in touch with you?
So Facebook or Instagram. Usually people message me on Instagram. OneStrongB is my handle. But yeah, like I said, I would love to stay involved in the sport. So I encourage people to reach out, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I'm very down to earth. You know, and if I can make it to contests or you want me to come judge, I'll be more than happy if I can make it work with my schedule. And yeah, keep it at that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time out of the schedule.
Absolutely. Anytime.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'll let you go and eat and rest up and get ready for rules tonight, and then good luck this weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.